excerpt of Independent Senator Joseph Lieberman's comment yesterday. He clearly criticized the harsher questioning of Petraeus by some Democrats on the Armed Services Committee.
What I'm about to say with respect to my colleagues who have consistently opposed our presence in Iraq, as I hear the questions and the statements today, and it seems to me that there's a kind of hear no progress in Iraq, see no progress in Iraq, and most of all, speak of no progress in Iraq. The fact is there has been progress in Iraq, thanks to extraordinary effort by the two of you and all those who serve under you on our behalf. I wish we could come to a point where we could have an agreement on the facts that you are presenting to us. The charts you've shown, the military progress, the extraordinary drop in ethno-sectarian violence, the drop in civilian deaths, the drop in American deaths, the very impressive political progress in Iraq since last September. Hey, let's be honest about this. The Iraqi political leadership has achieved a lot more political reconciliation and progress in September than the American political leadership has. So we've got to give some credit for that. I repeat, I wish we could have an agreement on the facts, which you've presented. You work for us. I don't distrust those facts, and I wish we could go from an agreement on those facts to figure out how we can move to more success so we can bring more of our troops home. That's apparently not going to happen in the near future.
This is Democratic Senator Evan Bayh of Indiana, the last member of the Armed Services Committee to question General Petraeus.
My final question, gentlemen, is this. I noticed and Senator McCain is no longer here, it was his opinion that success, I think his words were, was within reach. And another quote was that success would come sooner than many imagine. Now, I don't want to get you sucked into the presidential campaign and ask you to respond to that directly. But many Americans are going to look at your testimony here today and all of this proceeding and these questions, and they're asking themselves, well, what does all this mean about the way forward? Is success truly almost at hand? Or is this, you know, a commitment without end? And so my final question to you would be, is it not possible to at least offer some rough estimate about when we will be able to, after this brief pause, recommence extricating ourselves by withdrawing more troops from Iraq down to some longer-term level? Is it just impossible to offer any rough estimate?
Senator, if you believe as I do and the commanders on the ground believe that the way forward on reduction should be conditions-based, then it is just as flat not responsible to try to put down a stake in the ground and say this is when it will be or that is when it will be, with respect.
I understand that, General. Many Americans will listen to that and believe this to be an open-ended commitment because, by definition, we won't know until we get there, and there have been so many ups and downs in this thing. I think it's a fair estimate to say that when this began, most did not assume that we'd be sitting here 5 years on with the conditions that we currently have. And so, again, I'm just trying to give the American people a fair judgment about where we stand and what the likely way forward is, and I guess the best answer to that is we'll know when we get there, and we don't know when we're going to get there.
Senator, as I just said, we believe the appropriate way, based on the military commanders on the ground, to sustain and build on the progress that has been achieved over the course of the last 12 or 15 months, is to make reductions when the conditions allow you to do that without unduly risking all that we've fought so hard to achieve.
General Petraeus being questioned by the Democratic Senator from Indiana, Evan Bayh. We're going to get last comments now on where you believe what should happen next. Gareth Porter, let's start with you, and what you think will happen next, what should happen next.
Well, you know, just in terms of the impact of these hearings, the problem that I see is that there was never really a focus on you know, whether the United States has mastered the forces that have been opposed to and will remain opposed to the U.S. occupation and the government forces that the U.S. is supporting. It's interesting that there's no discussion in any of these questions to Petraeus about order of battle. No one is asking how many people is it that are opposed to the United States militarily in Iraq now. I think that's an issue that we still need to take a look at in order to have a realistic expectation about whether this is a viable exercise. So, you know, what is the next step? Well, you know, I think the next step is to elect a new president, and then we can have really a different debate with a different cast of characters.
Eli Lake of the New York Sun.
Yeah, I mean, before I just get on, there was something that was said before you played those clips that the strategy of the U.S. is to divide and conquer the Sunnis and the Shias. And that's just an extraordinary thing to say. And I think that actually, I mean, the strategy was to, you know, defeat and bring in sheikhs in Anbar at first and other Sunni sheikhs to defeat the equivalent of the Islamic Khmer Rouge. And we're seeing something like that happening on a tribal level with in the Shia areas. As far as that order of battle question, I don't really understand it. I think that you're seeing a strategy that is beginning to pay for, to largely work. And I think that for the most part, the people who call this military engagement an occupation, who believe that it's a sin, to believe that America is responsible for all of the death toll and sort of excuse al-Qaeda and the other actual people targeting civilians, really are a small minority. And I think more and more you're going to find that most Americans are kind of revolted by that position and will gravitate towards an Obama that will tack to the center, or a McCain that's also tacking to the center.
It was you who released that report that you said you got a hold of that with Obama keeping some suggestion to Obama from an advisor to keep 60 to 80,000 troops in Iraq.
I think you're going to see more of that, and I think, you know, I don't know, Code Pink will continue, I suppose, to protest and so forth.
Arun Gupta.
Just one quick correction. Under international law, everything in the international law, the U.S. is by definition an occupier, and is by definition an occupation, is what is the UN determined in May of 2003 when it endorsed its occupation.
Because you like the way they
sound. So let's take a look at the success that Mr. Lake loves to talk about. You're talking about over 5 million refugees, a phenomenal number, 20% of the population. Anywhere from 200,000 to over 1 million dead Iraqis. Just it borders on genocide. This is the success that he talks about. A country with no security, a country with no services whatsoever, with a government that does not exist beyond the green zone, that is essentially under the complete control of the Bush administration.
We have 10 seconds.
What should happen? Full immediate U.S. withdrawal on one condition: reparations to Iraqis for the devastation we've wrought on them for the last 17 years.
Arun Gupta, I want to thank you from the New York Indypendent, Eli Lake of the New York Sun, and Gareth Porter, an investigative reporter with Interpress Service. That does it for our show. If you'd like to get a copy, go to democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Berkshire, producer Aramate, Angelique Hammett, Jeffrey Hagerman, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, Robbie Karen, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Peter Curry's our engineers. We're on the road starting tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I'll be at the Barnes & Noble in Battery, near New Orleans, on Sunday in Seattle, Monday in Portland, Oregon, Tuesday in San Francisco. I'm Amy Goodman. Check our website. This is Democracy Now!